you so much. Um, Thank you all for being here as well. So we are just going to shift gears and shift continents as well. We just discussed Dubai. Now we are going to discuss US. Before we begin, how many of you know about EB5 visa? Just a show of hands. Heard about it, know about it. Okay, few people, right? So EB5 visa is an investment-based visa. It's basically to procure a green card for the US. So every investor who invests a minimum amount of 800,000 US dollars can get a permanent residency in the US. So it will include the family, which is main applicant, spouse, and children below, unmarried children below 21 years of age. Everyone will get a green card for the US. Now, before we discuss CMB and the project that we have, just a few starters as to what this EB5 visa is all about. So we know that it's for getting the permanent residency in the US, but how do you get that? Where does the money go? So the 800,000 US dollars are utilized for what? So from a US standpoint, your investment of 800,000 US dollars need to create 10 full-time jobs, American jobs in the US. So we as a regional center ensure that you're investing in a qualifying business which will create those 10 full-time jobs. And once the jobs are created and you're able to get the green card, you have the return of capital as well. So these are the two goals of any investor who's looking into EB5 visa. First is to invest in a qualifying business, thereby creating 10 full-time jobs. And second is to have the return of capital once those jobs are created. Now, to give you a brief about CMB regional centers, we are designated as a regional center. So we are authorized by USCIS, which is the adjudicating body who takes care of the immigration services for the US. We are authorized by them so that we are able to procure these qualifying businesses so that investors like yourself can invest with us and get a green card for the US. So CMB Regional Centers was first established in 1997. In all these 27 years, we have worked with more than 6,000 plus investors, and we have worked on 85 plus projects. So CMB Regional Centers was established by Mr. Patrick F. Hogan. He's the founder and CEO. And I will discuss in detail as to how this gentleman has been instrumental in creating few things which are now prevalent in EB5 space. Ms. Noreen Hogan is the president of the CMB Regional Centers. She runs the day-to-day operations of the company currently. So as I was mentioning, in these 27 years, we have worked on 85 plus projects. We have 6,300 plus investors from 103 different countries, including India. Now, when I say 6,300 investors, it means one application. So I'm not multiplying it by the derivatives or the beneficiaries, such as spouses and children. It's one application which includes all the family members. So out of these 6,300 plus investors, 5,400 plus investors have already received their initial approval. So EB5 visa, it's very important to understand that it's a step-by-step process. You go through different stages in order for you to receive your green card. So I-526, and you don't need to remember all these terminologies, but just for ease of reference, that's the first application approval. So out of these 6,300 plus investors, we have 5,000 plus investors who have received the initial approval. Then 2,400 plus investors who have received the final green card. So basically they have made the investment, they have the initial approval, they were in the US for an extended period of time, which is 2 years. Then they make another application, which is I-829 application, which they have received the approval for. And 2,600 plus investors who have successfully received the return of their capital. So the 500,000 or 800,000 US dollars, depending on when they invested, they were able to receive the capital back as well. Now you will see over here that the approval number is 2,400, but the return of capital is 2,600. Why is that? Because earlier, the interpretation by the USCIS was that you need to have your I-829 petition approved before you could have the return of capital. After 2017, they changed their outlook, and you could apply for I-829 petition and would be eligible to have your funds back. So that's why you're seeing that the number of return of capital is more. So these are the projects that we currently have. We have had projects in California predominantly. Actually, CMB stands for Closed Military Base or California Military Base. So when we were established, Initial projects were in California area, but then we expanded to other parts of the US as well. And you will see over here that there are different projects at different investment mark. So currently, as per the current law, the investment amount for EB5 is 800,000. It used to be 500,000 before 2022. So there are partnerships with 500,000, 800,000, a million as well. Now, when it comes to the EB5 investment, mostly you will find that the regional center investment stands at the lower investment amount of 800,000. But you need to note that the investment can be more than that as well. So it's either 800,000 US dollars or $1,050,000 US dollars, depending on where the project is. So if the project falls under a certain category, which is a targeted employment area, then the investment amount is lowered at 800,000. Otherwise, it's $1,050,000 US dollars. And this is important because there are a lot of inquiries which we receive that I want to form my own business in the US. And how do I go about it? So regional center is going to help you with this pooled investment. You invest with us, and rest of the responsibility of the job creation, whether the construction is going to be complete or not, that is something which regional centers take care of. But if you need to have your own business, if you want to have your own business in the US, then the investment amount might vary. It might be $1,050,000 US dollars. And the job creation part, that's on the investor as well. So basically, they have to take care of their own business plan, they have to take care of their own job creation, and the job need to be sustained for a consistent period of 2 years. So what are the priorities when it comes to any EB5 investment? The priority number one is to receive your green card. That is the main priority. The second priority, or equal to the first one, is the return of your investment. So once those jobs are created, we don't need to hold those funds. Once you have your green card, the funds will return back to you. Another question which we get from Indian investors is, what about the return on my investment? How much am I going to earn? So the answer to that, typically with regional center investment, is that the return that you get in regional center investment is always going to be low. It's going to be less than 1% per annum. But what you are investing into is to procure the green card for the US. And even though I call it as an investment-based visa, it is not a traditional investment. The real investment that you're making into when you're looking at any regional center or EB5 investment is to procure the green card successfully. How does that investment work? So you are over here. You become an investor, thereby becoming a limited partner. So once you invest 800,000 with a regional center, each investor ends up becoming a limited partner. You get into a CMB limited partnership. Now, these will be pooled investments. So there might be 50, 60, 100 investors just like yourself from different countries investing in the same project. Now, these pool of funds will be managed by the general partner, which is CMB in this case. And now this partnership is in the business of lending funds to the borrower. Now comes the important part. Where is the money going? It's going to a borrower, which is usually a developer. So that developer is constructing an asset class. It can be an industrial logistics facility, it can be a hotel, it can be a residential project, it can be any construction intensive project which is being constructed by that developer. Once the construction happens, the jobs get created. Now, after the construction is complete, the developer is going to sell off that particular project, and those funds are going to be utilized for the return of the loan, return of the capital. So the funds will move from the borrower after the construction is complete back into the partnership, and then the partnership will distribute all the funds back to the investors. So that's the whole life cycle of your investment. Now the loan tenure can vary. In this particular project, the loan tenure is 5 years. So you can expect the return of your capital in 5 years. So this is the team that we have, and this is a very important slide. Regional center at the end of the day is a designation. So there are a lot of regional centers, rather hundreds of regional centers in the US who are functioning in the US seeking investment. But what you need to check is what is the team strength? So we have a compliance department, we have a separate legal department, we have case managers, we have representatives outside of the US such as myself as well. So we have a whole team who is at the disposal of the investor so that we can help you with all the information that you are seeking at any given point in time, and you are abreast with the project related any information that you have. So this is an outdated number actually. We have 81 partnerships which are approved by USCIS. We have 10 projects which are approved post 2022 as per the new law. So with the new investment amount of 800,000, we have more than 10 projects which are approved now. We have 60 projects with I-829 approvals, meaning the investors which are in those projects have successfully received their final or permanent green card. And 50 projects wherein there has been a return of capital as well. So all the investors in those projects have return of capital, which they had invested previously. Now, what I'm saying are just words. What is the proof of that? This is the proof of that. All the statistics, all the data is periodically audited by a third-party company. Since 2022, this is part of a mandate as per the law that every regional center has to have annual audits done. But this is something which CMB has been doing since 2015 for all the partnerships dating back to that. So we were auditing all the partnerships even before it became a requirement per se. Now we have spoken a bit about CMB regional centers. Now coming to the developer, because that's the second important part in that chain of your investment strategy. So first you're looking at the track record of the regional center. The second is whom are we working with? Where are the funds going? Because these guys are going to be responsible for the construction, thereby creating those 10 full-time jobs for your investment. So currently we are working with Hillwood Development Company. It's part of the Perot family. Mr. Ross Perot Jr. formed this company in 1988. And just to give you a background about the Perot family, Mr. Ross Perot Sr. actually ran for president's election back in 1990s. He ran twice. He was an independent candidate. Obviously, he did not win. But he was one of the leading politicians who was able to secure a lot of votes as an independent candidate. Another important fact of Perot family is that they had EDS, Electronic Data Systems, which was a $1 billion company formed in 1962. It was sold to GM for profit. Perot Systems formed in 1988. Someone who is into IT must be aware of these companies. It was sold to Dell in 2009. So just like we discussed the statistics between CMB and all the projects, these are the stats between CMB and the money which has gone into Hillwood project. So out of those 85 plus projects, we have 41 partnerships where the funds have been utilized for the construction by Hillwood. Out of those, 32 partnerships successfully have seen I-526 approvals or I-924 project approval. 19 projects have seen I-829 approval, so the investors have received the final green card in that. And 25 times they have repaid the loan back. And these are important stats. If you talk to different regional centers, you won't even find 25 projects in total. Out of all these 41 projects, they have successfully repaid the loan back 25 times. And these are important stats. So what it calculates is out of 1.1 billion which were raised, which went into a Hillwood project, 526 million US dollars were successfully repaid by Hillwood on time. So out of those 6,300 plus investors, around 2,000 investors have gone into a Hillwood project. 1,300 have received the I-526 approval. 400 plus have received I-829 approval. And 600 plus have received the return of capital. Again, you will see that the number of return of capital is more. Now coming to the project. So that's the third part of the chain. Regional center, developer, and the actual project. So we are going to discuss CMB Group 89, Hillwood City Creek BTS. So BTS essentially means built to suit. So this is construction of a freezer cooler industrial logistics facility in Denver, Colorado. We are seeking 99 investors. Investors are currently coming in. So there are around 65 units available in this. So the total EB5 raise would be 79.2 million US dollars. So this is the current location. It's 10 miles north of Denver. It's in Thornton, Colorado. And this has access to air, rail, and road transport. So this becomes very important because what makes a project attractive is the demand for this particular asset class in that area and the proximity to important rail, road, and air network. So this is closer to that one. And what's going to happen? Since we discussed that it's a BTS, means built to suit, so it's being constructed for a pre-decided tenant. What it means is there is already a 240-month lease on this particular project. So once the construction is complete, someone is going to occupy this space for an extended period of 20 years. Let me give you an example and explain to you what that means. Let's say I'm constructing a hotel, Lee Meridian, another in Delhi, somewhere else. And I am telling you that once the construction is complete, this hotel is going to be fully occupied, 100% occupancy for the next 20 years. That sounds attractive, right? So this is important from a perspective of repayment of your capital. What it means is once the construction is complete by the end of this year, it's already 50% done. You will be receiving a green card because the jobs will be created once the construction is complete. So your green card aspect is taken care of. And the second main component is the return of capital. And we already know that there is a pre-decided tenant for 20 years once the construction is complete. Now, another fact is the same tenant, which is a Fortune 500 top 35 retail tenant, is also going to buy this particular property once certain conditions are satisfied. So we know that this place is going to be occupied. So we have a cash flow, we have a tenant, and the same tenant is also going to buy that space. So the funds are going to be utilized for construction of these things. So it's a freezer cooler facility of 529,000 square feet and some ad hoc facilities along with that. Now, Hillwood is working in conjunction or in joint venture with Stream Realty Partners. They usually do that. So they utilize local expertise and they also back that up with their own expertise. So Stream Realty Partners have been in Denver. They have a lot of experience in all the asset classes, specifically industrial logistics in Denver, Colorado area. And Hillwood is working in conjunction with them. For our EB5 purposes, the investor is just focused with Hillwood. So it's Hillwood who is taking the loan. Hillwood is going to construct and going to repay the loan back into the partnership. So as we discussed earlier, each investor needs to create 10 full-time jobs. So here you will see that there is a job buffer. You actually need 10 jobs. The investment is going to create around 17.7 jobs per investor. So there is a buffer involved in that. This falls under the high unemployment TEA area, means that it qualifies for the lower investment of 800,000, goes without saying. Now this is the capital stack, and this is one of the important aspects. I would say it carries 30 to 40% weightage as to how the funds are structured. So there is a senior construction loan. It's given by a bank, which is going to be around 119 million US dollars. EB5 loan is around 79.2 million US dollars, and developers' own equity is 61 million US dollars. Now, it is important to understand there is a note below over here. I'm not sure whether it's readable or not, but the total loan approved is actually 172 million US dollars. So the question usually arises that if we are unable to raise all these 99 investors, 79.2 million US dollars, then what is going to happen? Is the project going to stop? Then the answer to that is the developer has enough funds. They already have more loan approved worth 172 million US dollars, out of which they are just utilizing one part of it, 119 million US dollars. So we know that the construction is not going to stop. And the project is also going to be sold. So when I mention that developers' own equity is 61 million US dollars, you will actually see that the tenant has already paid in advance 50 million US dollars to Hillwood, which has been utilized as their own equity. So the next question is, what happens if the tenant backs out? What is the provision? What's going to happen? So the chances of the tenant backing out is very, very, very low. I won't say zero because nothing is guaranteed in this world, but the chances are very, very, very low because they have already paid 50 million US dollars, which has already been utilized into construction activities of the project. So we know that they have equal skin in the game. They want this project to get complete so that they can start their operations as soon as the construction is complete. And these are some of the collaterals. Now, these collaterals are independent of the collaterals which the senior lender has. So of course there is construction completion guarantee, which means that the developer has to construct the project. The guarantee can either be given to a senior lender or the partnership. Either ways, the benefits are accrued by both the parties. We have a 100% distributions pledge, meaning once the sale happens, the funds are stored into a separate account, which the CMB partnership has first rights to. So the developer cannot take the funds out without our approval. And the same goes with cash flow pledge agreement. Right, so this was CMB Group 89. If you want to know more about the project, we are at the booth B01. Happy to answer all your questions that you may have. Thank you so much for your patience, and thank you IREX for having this wonderful event. Thank you so much.